Yeah, so that's only a brief portion of what is a lengthy hearing being conducted here in Parliament House today. John Grimes is Chief Executive of the Smart Energy Council. He also appeared at that nuclear inquiry earlier today, and he joins us in the studio now. John, welcome to the program. Yes, you gave that evidence, and I'm going to say in summary that it was combative at times. You were a little exasperated in your exchanges with Ted O'Brien, the Coalition frontbencher on climate and energy. You did claim along the way that the promotion of nuclear, quote, does enormous damage to the 50,000 people in that's your renewable energy sector. Are you suggesting that jobs have already been lost due to uncertainty generated by nuclear debate?
So we had a decade of the coalition government. Of course, there was massive damage done to our sector at that time. This nuclear debate is that anti-renewables push in a new form. This is about, on two hands, one, providing very little detail, a two-page media release and a 1,200-word document outlining what is going to be the solution to Australia's energy problems, but at the same time concurrently attacking renewable energy. So you'll hear the coalition talking about the massive cost of renewables. You'll hear them talking about, that renewable energy isn't up to the task, that it's not baseload power. So your question, yes. Actually, we see jobs and investment under threat today. We see the offshore wind industry scared by what the opposition is proposing, and that does cause damage to an industry right now.
Aren't some of those, particularly offshore wind, making their investment decisions based on all manner of inputs, including risk and cost, changing goalposts that have now got to be further offshore and the like, than simply the possibility, which you'd have to say is a little remote at the moment, of nuclear power?
This is the alternate government of Australia. This is their plan. Not only is it affecting people today, but think about the future, 2035 and beyond, when nuclear comes online. 7 to 9 million Australian households will have solar on their rooftops. What do we want to do? Shut those systems down? Which solar or wind farms are we going to curtail to make room for nuclear energy to come on board? This is a thinly disguised wedge, a real attack on the renewable energy industry. This is a continuation of 10 years of policy, and from the alternate government of Australia, I think it's a disgrace.
There was a lot of bandying around in the room today, both in your session and other sessions, about the concept of baseload power, whether that is still a necessity in the modern grid that Australia aspires to build, but I think you'd acknowledge hasn't quite yet pulled off so far. What was your contribution to that?
Well, baseload power is unflexible power. It's like a big coal-fired power station that you turn on and you can't turn it off. So it produces during the day when people need energy, and then it produces all through the night when everyone's asleep and no one needs any energy at all. Nuclear power is the same. You can throttle it down, but you cannot turn nuclear power off. So what that means is you've got demand that changes over time, changes with the seasons, changes with the time of day, and you're trying to meet that with an inflexible load.
You could give it away for free, though, couldn't you?
Well, it's eye-wateringly expensive. So a nuclear power reactor in the UK coming online, a single reactor, $92 billion. So with solar and wind and a huge geography like Australia, you've got sun and wind through the day and the night. You fill in the little gaps with energy storage. It's about energy firming. If we were interested in an energy debate, we'd be talking about how do we get as much energy storage onto the network as quickly as possible. That would bring prices down. That'd help cost of living, and it'd actually help with carbon emissions all at the same time.
So Ted O'Brien, and we do want to move on to some other broader questions about targets here, John, but Ted O'Brien did take you to task over some modelling work or crunching of the numbers that the council had done itself. I think you landed an all-up cost of $600 billion. Justify to us the basis on which that number was produced, because he seemed a little sceptical about the plant that you had modelled that off, being one from the UK.
Totally. So, we modelled their plan, and we could only model what they table. Now, it's a 2-page press release and a 1,200-word document. And now, Mr. O'Brien is kind of sitting there as if to say, no, my imaginary friend is going to be way cheaper than that, way bigger than that. That's outrageous, right? We're actually talking about a massive investment of taxpayer money, and they are not providing the details that Australians deserve to know. dozens of unanswered questions. If they retable the detail, we'll retable our analysis.
All right, let's see what the committee comes up with, and I'm sure if Ted O'Brien were here, he'd tell us that there's more work coming, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's been coming for a couple of years, actually.
Okay, we'll get to that when we get there.
Yeah.
Climate targets. You might have noticed, John Grimes, that the UK's equivalent of the Climate Change Authority, that's what we call it here in Australia, is recommending for that nation 81% reduction of carbon emissions for 2035. How much do you think that should inform the government's decision-making here in Australia?
Well, I think it's fabulous that the UK is thinking about a stretch target here. They've had the advantage of bipartisan support on this issue for many, many years. So it means they've been able to go very far and very fast. All governments will need to front up before November next year and table their updated 2035 targets. It's important that we are ambitious.
But nuclear is a big part of the UK story.
Well, today, nuclear power provides 15% of the energy in the UK, and all of those nuclear plants will be phased out by 2030. There's one under construction in the UK, Hinkley C. Yeah. That announced in 2007. Britons were told that it would be cooking Christmas turkeys by Christmas 2017. It's unlikely to be online before 2031. And Mr O'Brien and Mr Dutton think that we can get a whole new first generation of its kind in a brand new jurisdiction by 2035. Mate, tell them they're dreaming.
All right, and just talking about Australia, you're saying, I think you're indicating, John, you'd be comfortable with Australia settling a 2035 target by November of next year. What happened to the urgency there? I thought we were going to get it much, much earlier.
No, so all countries need to have submitted by that time. Of course, we urge ambition. The atmosphere is like a blanket. It's actually heating with carbon and other pollution. Have you ever woken up at night time when you're overheating at night? And all you want to do is throw the blanket back. Well, the world is at the point now where we are not yet awake, but we are overheating. And when we wake up, it'll be impossible to push that blanket back because that carbon stays in the atmosphere for up to 1,000 years. So if we don't act and act seriously, we're all in strife.
All right, I think that's a discussion we'll be having in the lead up to the next election in this country, even if neither side actually lands a 2035 number before the poll. We'll see. John Grimes, really appreciate you joining us today.
Great pleasure.